Remind the kind folks at home what you do for a living.
Yes, so I'll just introduce myself. I joined, I think, MDG Premium, maybe I think about 15 months back. And I work in medical device testing and regulatory compliance, mainly in the testing side. And last May, when the COVID started, and I found that you had, I think I joined the group as soon as the COVID started, and I gave a presentation on medical device standards for testing the ventilator. So that was the key topic at that time, and I was involved in the testing field. And in the last year, I worked in a couple of different labs. I'm now in a different lab, and we tested like few BiPAP machines, ventilators, and other respiratory devices. So this year, what I found out was a few months back, we had a very terrible second wave of COVID in India. And I found out was that the vaccine is the key thing, or the important thing, like everyone should get vaccinated. I hope you are vaccinated, Joe?
Was among the first.
Excellent. Okay, so
Yes,
mine
and my
also,
family is too.
yeah, okay. So in my family also, our first dose is over and we are just waiting for the second dose. So in the vaccines, specifically in the large area of the developing world, this WHO pre-qualification, that is the pre-qualification by World Health Organization, is one of the key regulatory requirements. So I just wanted to say some words about that and the tests related. And in the end, I will compare it with the EU MDR and FDA also, little bit, because you can also have, let us say, if you have a vaccine refrigerator, that can be both as per, I think, as per US FDA or as per WHO pre-qualified device. And there are a lot of startups which are working in making these kinds of devices, low cost devices, and which will help in, increasing the accessibility of vaccines. So this is my lab in which I work currently. It is called International Center for Automotive Technology. It is mainly a lab which tests automotive or vehicles, and it's a premier lab in India. And now they are also into the medtech field. So I'll just briefly introduce the lab. So this lab is part of Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises, Government of India, and it's a huge facility of about 160 million US dollars, and it has got EMC testing, acoustics testing, safety, product safety, and different tests which are related to mechanical, electrical, and so on. Mainly the engineering tests. And I
Surprised
serve
by
as
the total investment based on the picture of the building you showed us. It looked like a small facility.
No, it's about it's quite large. So this is just one campus. That's just the main office.
I see.
So yeah, so that's there. And I serve as advisor for medical devices at ICAT. And now our lab is accredited to several like, let's say, medical device standards. And we are also hoping to go for further accreditations in future. So just I wanted to introduce first what is PQS. So this is exactly from the WHO website. I think I have some issue with the timing. I think I just last year also I had that somehow. I don't know. I think somehow. Okay. Are you able to see, Joe? Is it fine?
Um, it'll do, I suppose.
Okay.
Yes, let's just say yes.
Okay. So what is a PQS essentially? So PQS stands for performance, quality, and safety. And this process pre-qualifies the products and devices so that mainly the member states, any member state, which I think includes most countries, and other UN purchasing agencies such as UNICEF and so on, are assured of the suitability for use in the immunization program. And at present, they have done significant work with related to COVID vaccination program. And next, what is the peak, the key approach, right? So the WHO PQS, and just I wanted to clarify, PQS is also there for IVDs and vaccines and devices. And I am focusing only on the device part. So there are about 10 categories of devices, and I'm focusing on devices. And they have another division for vaccines and another for IVDs and so on. So I'm not focusing my presentation on that. So, but this is applicable to all the three categories. The general WHO approach to pre-qualification is in performance, they are looking for the selected product to meet relevant specification standards. And they also here, the PQS documents extensively give details about the technical specification also. And once the models are qualified in PQS, they list those models also. They list the manufacturers also. And it's so suppose if some hospital or someone wants to purchase a PQS qualified device, they just have to look at the WHO site, and they can simply buy them or invite them for tenders. In quality, the quality and reliability characteristics which are appropriate for the field conditions. So the operative word is field condition. So it should be like kind of robust, and it should be like it should work in the field. So this is one of the key reasons why for vaccine refrigerators, WHO has come forward for many categories of refrigerators, such as there is a solar powered one, there is a mobile, transit operable refrigerator, and so on, so that it is you have different kinds of products for access in different kinds of areas, like remote regions also. So you can have a completely solar powered refrigerator, for example, and there are detailed specifications for that. Again, safety means they are looking for the complete product life cycle, that it should be safe to the user, it should be safe to the patient, and it should be safe to the environment. One thing I was very surprised was they had mentioned that cradle to grave safety characteristics that ensure that no harm is caused to users, patients, or environment. So they are very they say no harm should be caused. So since I am from the medtech regulatory field, I know a little bit about risk management, and I was surprised to see that the word no harm. So they are very categorical about that. And surprisingly, they don't mention. I have referred to many WHO PQS documents. I have found not much information about risk management. So they have skipped that. So that's just one aside. Then, sorry again. I think, yeah. So here,
I think you have many skills, but PowerPoint is not chief among them.
yeah, but somehow, yeah. So I just, so this, are you able to see the slide? Is it clear?
It is. It's a bit small for some. Go ahead and try
Okay.
to hit the
Okay.
full screen again.
I will try the bigger one. Just a minute. Yes. So this is the, one second. I'll just, okay, I'll show them in a separate way. I'll just explain it here. So essentially this PQS equipment, there are about 10 categories, and they have classified it from E001 to E0013, but there is no number 9, and I believe one more number is not there. I think there is no number 11. So we have got about 10 categories of equipment. The first one is the cold rooms, freezer rooms, and related equipment. The second category is refrigerated vehicle, and it is surprising to note that only one company makes the refrigerated vehicle. I'll show you that on the WHO website. The third category is the refrigerators and freezers. These are again divided into many kinds of refrigerators and freezers, such as solar powered ones, or you have the regular vaccine refrigerator or ice line refrigerator, and so on. Then you have the cold boxes and vaccine carriers. This is one of the interesting area for any potential startup which really wants to make a contribution in like the current crisis. Then you have got coolant packs, which is a simple device. Then again, another critical equipment category is temperature monitoring devices, which is quite critical, and there are a lot of them. And then finally they name certain devices as cold chain accessories. So those items such as voltage stabilizers, for example, they also come under cold chain accessories. So and the WHO PQS requirements for these cold chain accessories are very stringent. So let us say every refrigerator, if the power supply is not reliable, it needs some sort of a stabilizer. But here they are looking for a very stringent test for impulse. So impulse is one of the parameters which we check. It normally we use a 2.5 kilovolt kVA impulse test, but here they are going for a very high range, and very few labs in the world can actually test that. And that was one of our realization. We do a lot of pre-compliance for this. And then again, there are devices which are injection devices for immunization, which are syringes. This is not my area, so I will not be speaking much about that. And the next one is they have a lot of equipment for waste management. And then finally, this injection or this whatever, these syringes, they have divided into two categories. One is for immunization, another is for therapeutic purposes. So I'm not really familiar what is the therapeutic purposes is a normal one, I guess. And this is some special sort of injection for immunization. And they have listed all the companies, they have listed all the varieties of the equipment and their technical specification. And there are certain categories which are emerging. So but they will fall under these broad 10 classes. And if that's the process. Now, I just want to show a little bit about the WHO PQS website, because it's a very extensive website. I just wanted to show so that people could navigate through it much more easily. So this is the World Health Organization site for performance, quality, and safety. And these are again, the 10 categories are mentioned here. And there is something called this WHO PQS devices catalog, which is not only catalog, it's like a complete, it links to everywhere else. It's hyperlinked to everywhere else. And
Venkat, I have a question. And
yes,
you've been talking about this, but I want to clarify. Is this PQS initiative exclusively about immunization, COVID, pandemic, etc.? Because it seems that's all they're talking about on this page.
the PQS devices is related to immunization. It is not necessarily for COVID. It was there before that also, but they target only immunization. That's all.
Okay.
That's what I want.
It strikes me that I would expect there to be an equivalent about performance, quality, and safety, whether or not there's having to do necessarily with a pathology like that. Is there?
But as far as I know, this PQS is for vaccines and for IVDs and the devices which are oriented towards immunization. This was there since
Okay.
beginning, and
All right,
there
fair
is
enough.
no PQS for ECG, for example. I am not aware
Okay.
of any PQS for an ECG machine or
All
or
right.
maybe, I don't know.
I'm
Maybe
sure
there
there
could
are
be.
agencies for it, maybe who isn't necessarily needing to be one of them. Thank you. Please continue.
So there is UNICEF also involved somewhere. They also follow the PQS, and this PQS secretariat and working group is based in Geneva, and they also have their regional representatives. And significantly, I think for a lot of technical committees, I think even member countries support them, including the NIH, in drafting all these aspects, or maybe a few US universities, their biomedical engineering departments, they support the PQS secretariat in different technical forms. And this is the website, and this is quite simple. But then again, I'll just refer to one category, each category. I just want you to simply show their catalog and how extensive it is. So just a minute, I had opened it. Yes, this is the PQS catalog. And here you have got, here they mention pre-qualified equipment for expanded program on immunization, or EPI. So as you saw, they are focused here on immunization. And here, if you can see, I'll just wanted to show a brief part here. So this is something is going on. Yeah. So I'll just randomly pick something here. Okay. So they are focused on certain, yeah, this is a device, for example. This is a random entry from this. And here, this belongs under the category of refrigerators and freezers. And this is a vaccine water pack freezer. And this is made by some company here. And you have got the company's contact info. You have got the specification. And then you have got, it's like, you have got the quality standard. And here something I have again noticed, that there are some devices which are not certified to ISO 13485. Some devices are meeting ISO 9001. So they are not very particular. What I understand, I'm not from WHO, but I had tried to ask them this question, that is 13485 mandatory for PQS? But from many of the devices I have not found. So they are, but you should have some sort of a QMS. So the first thing is, some sort of a QMS is mandatory. It need not be 13485, step one. Step two is, I have not found anything about risk management in these devices. I have referred to about 80% of the PQS documents, not entirely, I have not found. That's another thing. These are the two key things I wanted to stress, because whenever a medical device manufacturers or designers, or they are all worried about 13485 and 14971. So I just wanted to have that clear. Then it's an extensive document. It will lead to all the other documents. Now I'll just get back to the WHO site, and I'll just click on, let us say, for interest, some sort of refrigerated vehicle. So how many vehicles are there? Here you can find that there is only one company, Toyota Tsusho Corporation, which is PQS qualified. And I just wanted to click here just to check what it is. So this is this is the only refrigerated vehicle supposedly, qualified by PQS, and you have got its address. And so if suppose someone is interested in making refrigerated vehicles, I think there's a lot of like market should be there. So this is the current PQS status. It will give its date. The date is also mentioned, and this is the general ID of the PQS. Now I'll get back to this WHO site, and
I have another question, please.
Yes.
So my background isn't in this part of devices, and for example, I know in order to commercialize anything in the United States, you need to have FDA clearance or approval. Are WHO guidelines like, oh, okay, that's nice, but you don't have to follow the letter to their law in order to have business? I mean, are these rules that unless you comply with the PQS from WHO, no one would touch it? So you showed me the picture of a Toyota vehicle that is a refrigerated vehicle.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, does that mean if I need something refrigerated, I have one choice? And if I don't do that, I'm out of business? That doesn't seem right.
My understanding, what I understood is WHO PQS, I do not think is followed very strictly in US, because you have got the FDA.
Right.
Of course, they can choose to follow it. But supposedly when American government gives aid to some other country, they definitely follow WHO PQS. I have seen that in their documents. But for the internal US use, I have not. I don't think WHO PQS is followed.
So two
But
questions.
similar thing is for the CE also. But in emergencies, or when some sort of certification is needed, especially in the rest of the world, WHO PQS is quite critical. And in India, we have a policy of following, in some cases, the PQS or the Indian local regulations or CE or FDA. We go with all. That's the thing. Yeah, go on.
Divya asks, is it because the refrigerator is not considered a medical device? That's why 1345 is not emphasized.
I will come to that. I'll come to that. So I'll speak. But for example, I will give you an example. Let us say a refrigerator is storing vaccines, typically in the US. I suppose some sort of FDA approval would be required, right? If it is storing medicines. So it may not be a medical device, but it will surely be an IVD refrigerator or something like that. And similar case should be for, I think, if I'm not, correct me if I'm not wrong, for EU MDR. So either you have got the IVDR or the MDR that is applicable to refrigerator. So surely 13485 is applicable. But in this case, WHO PQS is an exception where I have not found any reference to, no compulsory reference to 13485. In some cases, you have certain refrigerators, specifically the portable ones, which also are, maybe the company is following 9001. That's also there listed. Maybe I think Rob can enlighten us on this, because
I brought Rob on because he is yeah. Robert, you are on mute. I'm asking to unmute. There.
Unmute.
Thanks.
I'm trying to look up the answer. I don't know the answer off the top of my head, but we'll put in refrigerator and see what we come up with.
And in the meanwhile, Gunjan, I brought you back on because Venkat was saying, FDA for US, CE for Europe. And if you want to do something in some of these other countries, that absolutely they're paying attention to WHO guidelines. Can you concur as it relates to India? If not WHO, I don't know what the right word is, endorsed, followed, then we're not interested in that product?
Well, when something isn't approved by the US FDA or by CE, and there's a few other countries like standards from Japan and Australia are also considered generally acceptable. But if there's a company that has a product that isn't from one of those home countries, then India has its own regulatory approval process, but it takes a while. And so in the meantime, for emergency usage, I think they would absolutely want some kind of compliance with the World Health Organization. The WHO is taken much more seriously in India than it is certainly in the United States. I don't
Even
think
the
that
notion, the words you're using, taken more seriously,
yeah,
doesn't convey to me mandatory. And I'm thinking that in medical devices, mandatory is the key,
Yes.
right, Rob? I mean, either you
Yeah,
do the
it's
things that you need or you're not selling anything. And this sounds wishy-washy to me.
No, actually, I have just a minute. So specifically, like specifically all the Indian government tenders, which I have seen, different state governments and the federal government or the central government, all of them, if they buy a refrigerator, typically WHO PQS is being very strongly insisted upon. And the same is true of most of the South Asian countries. And also maybe at least South Asia, I am sure
So-
that everywhere it's being insisted upon.
You're
Right.
telling me that that Toyota product has an exclusive lock on 100% of the market. They have absolutely no competition in those geographies. Is that what you're saying?
Specifically for the refrigerated vehicle, if someone is advertising for that, definitely that will be there. But they have come up with other solutions like ice line refrigerators, which can be put on another vehicle. That's a different story. But but yeah, definitely. So there's a huge market for
John,
that.
you wanted
And
to add something?
Yes, so just a slight nuance. I think what Venkat is saying absolutely applies to any government agency that is buying product, because when they put out, whether it's the federal Indian government or the state of Tamil Nadu or the state of Rajasthan, when they're buying something, they will absolutely want compliance to standards from the WHO. But if a private corporation is buying something, say Apollo Hospitals, which is India's largest corporate hospital chain, then there may not be a absolute black and white requirement. Venkat, do you agree with my sense?
it is true, but since the vaccination program is largely state driven, the
Right.
norms are also state driven. So even if a private hospital is buying and because see, the most of the vaccines, at least in India, I think now they will be mostly free or subsidized, and the same is true for many countries. So in that case, because the vaccination program is kind of state driven, so the specs and all, they also follow the same methodology.
Absolutely. I mean, I think Joe wanted a broader understanding of what's going on, and we're talking specifically about COVID. But of course, in most of the world, there are many other diseases for which vaccinations are given, and not everything is paid 100% by the government, right? So,
True.
yeah. Okay.
Hey, Rob, you did a little homework for us.
I
What'd you
did.
find?
When you type in refrigerator, you come up with 3 links for product classifications. One centrifuges for general lab equipment, that doesn't apply. There's one for blood storage because the FDA historically has been very tight in its regulation of blood storage. There's a specific category for that, which doesn't really apply in this case. And the third one is a product that does cooling to enhance aesthetic weight loss. So, or actually, no, I take that back. This isn't, I'm misreading it. It's a scalp cooling system to cool your head. So none of these are a refrigerator for storing pharmaceutical products. I don't think that there's a specific product code, so it's not regulated as a device by the FDA. But anybody that is purchasing drugs has a license, has a pharmaceutical license, so they can store and distribute drugs. So they have to comply with requirements for storage of those drugs. So they're indirectly regulated by the FDA. But the requirement is the storage temperature and alarms that would be appropriate for when you have a power outage. And I don't think they're nearly as rigorous as what the WHO guidelines are. So this is a case where, it would make a lot of sense to have this kind of a requirement, but I don't think you find it. And I think if you did an audit of the different facilities that we've got, I think you'd find there's quite a bit of variability.
Thank you, Rob. Venkat, before you continue, and I certainly want you to, with the presentation you prepared, as I look at the composition of our audience, I believe, and tell me if I'm wrong, folks, you can leave a comment, none of them are specifically working on vaccines, immunization, and things of that nature. So while I'm interested in the rest of your presentation, I'm wondering, from a practical standpoint, are there implications about what you are discussing that would be applicable to the medical device industry at large. So as you're discussing, if you could kind of keep that in
Yes.
mind.
What I notice is, okay, one thing which I think is very applicable is specifically for startups. It is that it takes a lot of time to get CE certified, and it takes a lot of time to get FDA certified or an equivalent certification. Whereas the WHO PQS stresses mostly on the recognized international standards, let's say the IEC standard or the ISO standard, which is mainly oriented towards testing. So if someone today wants to start a company and then market the product in, let's say, 6 months or 1 year, this is the route to go, and there is a lot of demand for that. So that is, and if suppose someone comes up with a solar powered refrigerator and he has a ready market, and that's very clear, and he can sell the product. Whereas that's not true for FDA or definitely the new EU MDR. He will not be able to finish all the tests and the certification process within a very short period of time. Maybe
Right.
is that helpful?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So if someone wants to invest money also, that's specifically true from a commercial point, that here the product will get shipped out much more faster and it will reach the actual intended audience. And it is something like, in FDA, you have this HDE, right? Humanitarian device exemption. And some companies really target that category. And then after they get, they launch their product, then they go to the regular, I don't know, pre-market submission and so on. So similarly, suppose a company makes a product for WHO PQS, which has a ready market. Let us say someone makes a refrigerated vehicle and gets it qualified. Then definitely at a later stage, he can somehow, get into some other like much more advanced regulation. That's my understanding, and may not be true for refrigerated vehicles, but certainly it is true for the syringes or let us say other waste handling devices, devices which handle biomedical waste, for example. And there is there is a lot of commercial opportunity also there in that area. So I'll just continue. So what I wanted to say was WHO PQS it's not that it is quite simple. There is testing involved, a lot of testing, and there is a lot of overlap. I don't know how that came, maybe because these regulations were made quite quickly. I'll just show one document, for example. So as an example, so this document which I am showing is one category, which is the refrigerator, and inside that category there is another subcategory which is transportable powered vaccine storage appliances, which is something like a portable refrigerator. Now this I'll just search once. So what I want to stress is this is the standard for the household and similar electrical appliances. Means these devices, like Rob was discussing, according to WHO standard, they fall under a typical home appliance, like your home refrigerator. So they are mentioning the safety standard as per IEC 60335-1, which is a typical household, which is used for typical household devices. And they are also mentioning the EMC standard as per residential, commercial, and light industrial environments, which is not the 60601-1-2 typically, which is not the medical device category. But there is a lot of overlap in these tests. I'll just show again a bit. So there is this standard, which is IEC 60335-2-24, which is the particular standard for refrigerating appliances and so on, ice cream appliances and so on. But this also has a certain kind of EMC test. And then they are again giving another EMC standard, which is the above IEC 6100-6-1 again. So even though they are mentioning multiple standards, still the essential tests which we carry out are of the same nature. So the person or anyone who is doing these tests will have to really, go round and round. So this is quite a complicated document. And so a lot of tests are kind of repeated here, maybe because this document is released quite quickly, but that is my understanding. And they have also mentioned very stringent ingress protection requirement. So ingress is, there are two types of ingress. Ingress means that no dust or no water should get inside the product or whatever the device or the enclosure. And they have very strict ingress protection requirements. And they have exactly specified the kind of test required. This is not typically true in any other case. So here, I just want to show another example here. So here you have got this is for this IP rating. So they mentioned that the protection of appliance with lid or door closed and latched must not be less than IP 54, which is one of the rating. And then there is a distinct protocol of how these tests are carried out. Like you have to fill all the like the device with the vials and so on, which is in a different document. And similarly, they have very strong environmental tests, like tests which are related to vibration and shock and humidity and so on. So in certain respects, this is a much more stringent than the requirements are much more stringent than a typical medical device. So that is also there as far as testing is there. But as far as the rest of the documentation is there, such as ISO 13485 or 14971, or let us say software lifecycle 62304, I am not able to find many references to them. That's all. And I'll typically this is it. So this is again, I'll just come back. So this is the test which they have mentioned for robustness and vibration, which is an ASTM standard. This is again a slight anomaly I can observe here, because ASTM standards are mostly used in the US, and the labs outside US are not typically accredited for them, very rarely accredited for them. So instead of mentioning the ISO standard for vibration or ISO IEC standard for vibration and shock, they have gone back to using ASTM standards. So what this suggests me, what I understand from this document is, the document is prepared by many people, of course, but with different perspectives. And because of this reason, it's very difficult to meet even this requirement. That's my personal view. I'm not critiquing the WHO, but just it's a personal opinion.
Venkat, you're holding, that's better. When you were holding your microphone that way, you were a bit muffled, but we were able to hear you. That's better now.
So now it's better, right? Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'll get on with the presentation, and I'll just show some of the pictures of the typical tests which are conducted. So maybe that will be interesting. So this is the typical tests. These are the typical product safety and compliance tests, just for curiosity. They are done for any category of devices, whether, as you mentioned, it will be interesting for medical device people also, because whether the device is a medical device or an IVD, or let's say a household device, any equipment, you typically do these tests.
I'm hoping you can do full screen for these pictures so we can really see. So can you give that a try again?
I will try it. I will surely try. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Maybe just so. Yes. So this is the safety test, which is basically the electrical, mechanical,
Scope
and
it.
thermal.
Okay, that's fine. That's better. Go ahead.
Yeah. And the next test is, okay. I'll just yeah. This is it. So now you have seen the
Okay.
picture. Sorry for this. Yeah. So is the picture clear at least?
I'll say yes. I would have liked to look at it longer, but I
Sure.
I
I'll share the
won't
last picture.
test the patience of everyone. And
Sure. So here, typically on the left, you can see the leakage current measurement. It's a setup. I have covered the device with our lab logo because we can't show the device. Then leakage currents are again a very crucial test, leakage current and dielectric strength test, which is a typical test which most of the devices undergo. Then here on the right side, you can see the flame test, because flammability test is a quite important thing. It's again done for any product safety category. Then on the bottom left, you have the vibration shaker, which is used for like every device has a vibration testing requirement. Specifically in medical devices, this requirement is there for 60601-1-11, which is the home care equipment. And then here on the bottom right, there is the humidity chamber. So every device typically undergoes humidity preconditioning. Next, this is the electromagnetic compatibility test. So this is our EMC chamber at ICAT, which is one of the largest in India. The entire bus can fit into it. And we are now testing medical devices also in that. And electromagnetic compatibility, as I mentioned, I don't know why this is mentioned extensively in WHO requirements, but there is requirements. These are overlapping requirements as far as WHO is concerned. Next, finally,
did you ask if WHO identifies a pre-compliance test in the PQS?
Nobody identifies a pre-compliance test. Actually, they will not identify, because just like FDA doesn't identify a pre-compliance test, WHO doesn't identify a pre-compliance test. But the most commonly failed, the tests which commonly fail are the surge test and the ESD test, electrostatic discharge test. And then again, you have the radiated emissions test, and then the radiated immunity test. These are one of the common tests which typically fail, and it is better to do a pre-compliance testing for them. And this is also true for medical devices or IVDs. So in medical device, the EMC standard is IEC 60601-1-2. For IVDs, it is IEC 61326-1, as well as IEC 61326-2-6. That's a specific EMC standard for IVDs. And this again, for the WHO here has recommended the IEC 6100-2-X series of standards, because that's for the industrial and light environments. But there is some overlap in them, but essentially the EMC tests are all, by nature they are same, but the limits are different in different categories.
For you folks out there who love lots of numbers strung together like 60601 and 13485, our guest at the end of the month is Leo Eisner, and he's got a whole hour on 60601 with us.
Excellent. Yeah, it's I noticed that it's a great thing. I think he's one of the maybe experts on that, top experts. But for the audience, if they are just confused sometimes, I would just, a simple thing is, there are essentially for the 4 categories of standards, maybe in our typical life. So the 60335 series of standards refer to our household goods. So when we see our refrigerators or air conditioners or like lawn mowers or so on and so forth, they all come under IEC 60335 series. Then you have got the 60601 is the medical devices. Then any instrument which is for measurement and control falls under IEC 61010 series, including the IVDs. So in vitro diagnostics also fall under that. And then the 4th category is the IT equipment, which is IEC 62368. That is the series of the -1, that is the standard for that. Earlier there was this IEC 60950, but now it is 62368. So all of our mobile phones and laptops all will have that written at the
Go ahead and show us your last slide, then we'll take off the slide so they can see you full screen.
Yes. So this is the acoustics test, by the way. So I just want to say the refrigerators and any like air conditioners, they make a lot of noise. So one has to test for sound power. And this is done typically inside a hemi-anechoic chamber. And the same test or a similar test is also recommended in several particular standards of medical devices, which is in IEC 60601-2-XX or ISO 80601-2-XX. So
I'm
for
laughing
example,
at the speed and ease
sorry,
with
I'll
which
slow
you're
down.
dashing off all of these numbers, but go on.
So for example, the test, the kind of test to measure the sound power, which is done for a refrigerator, the similar test is done for a ventilator. But while doing the test for the ventilator, you need to set the lung compliance for the lung simulator at a certain value. That's what it mentioned. That's all. So a certain condition is there, and these EMC tests. I just want to go back. EMC is always done inside this radiated emission and immunity is done inside this EMC chamber, which is for the RF waves. And similarly in acoustics, we have something called a hemi-anechoic chamber. In EMC, we have a semi-anechoic chamber. It is hemi-anechoic chamber, which means the same thing. This is for the mechanical wave. That's all. So one is electromagnetics, another is mechanical. And then this is one slide I made, as I mentioned. This is PQS versus medical device / IVD. So ISO 13485 is not necessary as far as I understand. I may be wrong, but in certain, just from seeing the documents. And then risk management is another thing which is quite missing, but FMEA is there. And then software lifecycle, I was not able to see anywhere any test for software in the WHO PQS requirements. So typically any of our devices, whether they are medical or not, there is some sort of software lifecycle standard, but here that's not there. And the PQS still has its challenges. For example, there is extensive focus on environmental and IP testing. And that's all. And this is my final slide. And a quotation from Dijkstra. This is meant for software, but I'm quoting it here, which says that testing can only show the presence of errors and not their absence. So that's it. And I hope any questions are there, or I hope to share if there are there. Then that's fine.
So let's not share your screen anymore so we can just see you. And I guess my question would be, do you know how to do that? Or shall I figure out how to do it? There we go. Thank you. As we think about testing, who are your clients? Do they tend to be outside of India, exclusively outside of India? And if so, are they choosing an Indian facility for a price reason? How do you what's your point of difference? Why would somebody choose your organization to do their PQS work?
Yes. So until now, most of our clients are from India, but our lab in general gets certain samples from outside also. And our lab is also going in for other forms of accreditation, for example, A2LA accreditation. So right now we are accredited by NABL, which is the ILAC, or what I say, like it's the Indian Lab Accreditation Agency. But now we are also trying to get A2LA accreditation, which is the American Association for Laboratory Accreditation. So essentially, it would be the same as being tested in any lab in US. And since our lab has extensive facilities, so not many labs across the world have like EMC chamber and acoustics chamber. ICAT has the largest civilian acoustics facility in India, I guess, and the largest EMC facility. And one more specific thing is it's not only the largest in terms of the size, typically we can test immunity levels much higher than what is required by medical devices. So for example, just a simple thing, for a typical medical device which is used at home, the kind of electric field strength required is about 10 volts per meter, but our chamber can go up to 200 volts per meter. So you can, and we also have this HALT facility, highly accelerated stress testing and battery facilities and so on. So having these multiple facilities in one campus is required for an interdisciplinary area such as medical devices, and that's why they typically come here. So that is one of
Sanjeev,
our.
you joined us a little later. They're located in Delhi. Is your development work done in India? And if so, who do you use for services like those that Venkat offers?
So our work is being done here in the Bay Area itself. And we have had our safety testing done in the US in the past for POC, and now for our ADX. That's why I wanted to ask this question. Where are you located, Venkat? And why would we come to Delhi as opposed to just doing it here in the Bay Area? Right?
I have to imagine cost is a reason, but is that enough?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Is there cost? Is there any other advantages? I know NABL accredited. Are you guys an NABL accredited lab?
Yes.
So where are you?
And we are also going in for A2LA accreditation as well.
Right. So why would we come out there as opposed to just doing it here?
I think it really doesn't matter. See, electromagnetics is the same everywhere. Maxwell's equation works in US and in India, so that's one reason. That's what I understand. And the second thing is, the specific thing is, even across the world, there are very few. I don't think any other lab has, this kind of acoustics, EMC, mechanical, electrical, every engineering facility combined at one place, and which is not a military facility. There will be facilities, maybe, I don't know, which will be oriented towards space research or military, which has that. But in civilian sector, I don't think there will be many
I think
labs.
you answered Divya's question as well. You must do usability studies, yes?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So, but definitely, I would suggest, sir, you please try ICAT once and try us once, and see, maybe, hopefully. But
yes, if you can send Joe, if you can send the introduction, that would be great, because we're.
Yep, and of course you guys can do it yourself
sure.
through Premium. That's kind of how we built the thing. But for those of you who need a little extra, I'm happy to do that. It's funny. I'm looking at the screen of the four of us, and I'm a man of a certain age, and I'm thinking one of these things is not like the others. One of these things is not quite the same.
Correct. And just I just
John,
like to
this is
point
how
out
we
one
play
more
our
thing.
game. What did you want to add here?
What did I want to add? Oh,
Yes,
that's my
you
comment.
left a
Yes.
comment
So,
here.
Venkat mentioned some of the reasons why people might go to India. There's a couple of others that I find that my clients might consider. One is the turnaround time. If the labs in the US or Europe are backlogged, sometimes the Indian labs can have capacity to turn things around. This was certainly the case for work we did for Clorox Healthcare a few years ago, where getting the work done in the US was impossible, and trying to get it done in Ireland, and the Indian facility in Hyderabad could turn it around very quickly. Yes, the cost was lower, but that's not the reason why they went there. The second reason can be capacity. If you want a very high volume of work done, maybe a stateside or European lab can't handle that capacity, but a lab in India can. So those reasons, I think, are just as important for many companies besides trying to save $1 or $2.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
no, it's a good, and Venkat, you're right. But, for example, when we were developing the POC system, we had an issue come up, and the people in Fremont told us, and we could make the changes really quick and go back to testing. But we have to, we got the system back, we tested it, made the changes, and sent it back. When we were doing this in India, it would take a lot more time, right? And so, I mean, those are the pros and cons you have to weigh out, depending on how soon you need to get your product into the market, et cetera. Because, for us, we have to hit milestones to be able to get the next round of funding, right? I mean, and Joe, you know that I'm raising my Series A now, that I got the seed done. So for me, that is going to be a critical thing. And if that turnaround can happen quickly, then for me, then India may be an alternative. But if I can't get that turnaround, that wouldn't work for me, right?
I'll make a
Right.
point of making that introduction to facilitate for you guys.
Sure, but I just want to add one point is no lab specifically in an area like medical devices can do all the tests. For example, we don't do biocompatibility testing. We don't have that infrastructure.
Right.
So, so when we regularly work with labs both in India, all the other labs in India, and also abroad. So typically, what we do is so at least most of the tests, if they are done at one place, and then the rest of them they can be done, because the kind of accreditations are there. Like for example, I had an experience with ventilators the last year. There are about the same kind of tests are done, like ISO 80601-2-12 is the standard for critical care ventilator, -13 it is for the anesthesia workstation, -80 is the transport ventilator, then there is -79 and -80, which is ventilators for, I think, some sort of ventilatory insufficiency. So the same kind of ventilator, you have about 7 or 8 types of ventilators, or let's say I shouldn't use the word ventilator, some sort of breathing assist devices. And not all labs have accreditations for all 7 categories, because you have to go for a fresh accreditation each time. And both, let's say NABL typically takes about 4 months or 5 months lead time is there. So like that, you have extensive categories. And one, as far as pre-compliance is concerned, of course we can do, but these accreditations are very stringent in medical devices, and each category is very much different. Like as I told you, in the WHO refrigerators, like the solar refrigerator is a different one, and a different, let's say, so there are about 3, 4, or 5, 6 categories of vaccine refrigerators. So that's one reason where if you find the right accreditation, you should go to the lab. And that's my view on the matter. And that's it. So, and as I say, Maxwell's equations works everywhere. So that's the thing. And all the instruments which we use are the same, and typically the methodology is the same.
Thank
Yeah,
you. And while you were doing that, I
would like to, we frequently, there for certain clients, we outsource the testing abroad just because of certain accreditations or certain unique reasons.
facilitated introductions among the 3 of you while you were speaking. Next week, a very different topic. My friend Laura Jana is a pediatrician, and she's going to be talking about how to improve healthcare outside the traditional walls of healthcare, which I think is going to be a perspective that we haven't had on the program yet. I'm in New York, and I'm going to head outside and get myself a hot dog, I think.
Hey.
I'll see you all next week.
Yeah.
Thank you
Hey,
very much.
Sanjeev, it was nice to see you.
You too.
Be well, everyone, and thank you.
Bye now.